Today we're going to try the floating man experiment and learn about how dry erase markers work. To do this experiment, you're going to need dry erase markers and a smooth dish, preferably made out of glass. I used a baking dish. You're also going to need some warm water and some paper towels handy in case there's a spill. Your first step is going to be to draw some stick figures on the bottom of your dish with your dry erase marker. Then you're going to wait a moment or so for your figures to dry. Next, we're going to add some warm water to our dish. I have a whole cup of water here, but you will not need that much. Pour gently into your dish and avoid pouring directly onto the figures. Just pour somewhere nearby so that the water will run up to the figures. As I add a little bit more water, if you watch the figure on the left carefully, you can see that he starts to move. So what makes my floating man float? To learn the answer, we have to know a little bit more about how dry erase markers work. Inside of a marker is a solvent, usually some kind of alcohol, a resin or polymer, and the color pigments. In permanent markers, the polymer is a kind of acrylic that acts as a binding agent and sticks the ink to a surface. In a dry erase marker, an oily or silicone polymer is used. This makes the ink erasable. The ink is slippery and it won't stick to a smooth surface. If I draw with it, I can wipe it right off again. This effect only works on smooth surfaces with no pores. So if I draw on a paper towel, the ink does not come off. When I draw with my marker, the first thing that happens is the solvent in the marker, alcohol, evaporates and leaves behind the polymer and the pigment. This is why we need to wait a moment for our drawing to dry before trying the experiment. That gives the alcohol a chance to evaporate. Because the ink in a dry erase marker does not stick to the surface, it gives a little gap where the water that I add to the dish can slip underneath. Because the ink is lighter than the water, it floats on top. You may have to try several times before you can get your floating man experiment to work at home. I found that using certain brands of marker worked better than others, and you may also find changing the temperature of the water has an effect. Or you could try changing the color of the ink. Which color floats best?